Hello and welcome to another episode of CAR-Versations with the Unstoppable Jennie. I have here with me today Ima Basi. She's my birthday mate. I've known her for over a decade. And I also have somebody else whose voice you're going to hear, but he's going to be off camera because the sitting position is not just working for us. Yeah. And as you may have guessed, we are doing another road trip. Yep. So excuse any shaky cameras and all of that. So for conversations today, we're going to be having an interesting conversation about the 5 things or 4 things that we wish we knew before we got married, and we're going to be interrogating those things in the hope that it helps somebody out there. So Papi, what's one thing that you wish you knew before you got married? You can go.
Okay, how would I put it? I think some of the things that we hold dear to at the start of the whole adventure, it's not necessarily what matters. So things that like beauty, size, shape, and so on and so forth.
Okay.
Don't necessarily, they're important, but don't rank as top priority in the grand scheme of things.
Okay, so he says some of the things he thought were important before he got married, like beauty, size, shape. Do you agree? Do those things become unimportant? I mean, they will definitely diminish in importance. Or do you think that, Ima, do you think that those things don't matter for you before or after marriage?
Well, since I'm speaking as someone who is still married.
Yeah.
Well, the beauty, size, and shape. I think
Those are just some of the things he mentioned, yeah?
Yeah, just saying. These are physical features.
Yeah.
Which will change over time. So I think they shouldn't really matter that much.
Even ab initio, right? Like from the beginning, you don't think
I think what he means is that we place so much importance on those things.
Okay.
Meanwhile, you're getting married to the content of the container. So
Okay.
that container, as much as we appreciate if it looks good.
Yeah.
Yeah, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not that important.
Okay, so while I would agree with Papi on some of the things you thought were important aren't that important, I would not even restrict mine to physical features, because I don't think physical features was a thing for me. As long as I liked you, as back then, I was never like, oh, in fact, I was never a very physical person. I liked all sizes of people, all shapes of people. Yes. And on the flip side, there are things that you thought weren't important, that you get married and you find out that they are very, very important. Number 1, finances. Back then when I was getting married, nobody really talked about, we had a very brief premarital class, and finances never featured in our premarital classes, and nobody tells you how important that is when you get married. Financial independence for both spouses. Nobody talked. Back then, they used to talk about how important that was. So I had to learn the hard way in marriage that, okay, you know what? If we don't plan our finances, if we don't come to a middle point about how our finances are spent, we're always going to be at loggerheads over how money is spent. So that, for me, are some of the things that I didn't know were important, but turned out to be important. Physical features, nah, for me, never really a thing. Now over to me, what were some of the things I thought I wish I knew before I got married? I think number 1 for me would be that I wish I realized that marriage, although you're getting married to someone and starting a life with someone, it can get pretty lonely. So if you grew up in the times when I grew up, and I know I'm sounding like I'm patient, but yeah, if you grew up like 2 decades ago, when women were practically groomed for marriage, you were practically thought that was the pinnacle of your life, that was the end point, that once you get the right person, hopefully, and you're in a you're in a married home, all is well. But then you marry and then you discover that 2 incomplete people can't make 1 complete person. I think God designed us to find completeness in Him, not in another human being. So when you get married with all those ideals in your mind, and you suddenly realize that, okay, I can be married and lonely. And it's a shocking thing to realize, because if you don't find yourself, if you don't grow and discover and mature yourself personally, if you're waiting for the other person to constantly give you succor and joy, I always say human beings are spent trying to give themselves joy. So you cannot rely on somebody else to be your sole source of joy, encouragement, whatever. So that was for me one thing I knew, that as much as marriage is fascinating and fantastic, you have to understand that if you don't have a life, if you don't create a life for yourself, even in marriage, you can't get lonely. Papi, do you have any comments on that? Any opinions on that part?
Nothing contrary. I agree with you. It's
Energy.
nothing contrary to that. I agree.
Okay.
I agree with you, but I guess it's all about the discovery and how life goes on. I think one needs to be open-minded, because I think usually people feel that they have it all figured out and they know exactly how it's going to go.
Okay.
But it's not necessarily the case. And yes, of course, finance is really, really important.
True.
It's something that determines every other thing, because what happens now is you're now responsible for each other, and you want to ensure that, particularly when the kids come, you want to ensure that you have a future, and the future is tied down to cash rules everything around me. Cream, get the money. Dollar bill, y'all.
Okay, so the second thing I wish I knew before I got married was that people will change when they want to change. Okay, that you don't
change people.
You don't change people. You don't have the power to change people. People will change when they and the reasons people change are in myriad. You can change because you got mature. You can change because you grew as a person or as an individual. You grew in your walk. You grew as a Christian. All of those things bring changes. You can change because you earn more money. People change because they earn more money. You know, you can change because you lost some money.
I don't think people change. I just think they just become who they are. Yeah, it's just I think evolution is probably a better way, or it's just through expressions. So the limits that were there before are taken off, and the person really expresses himself just the same way it really is.
Okay, so Papi, you've known me for over a decade. Are you saying that I did not change?
Nope.
You are. Hey Matt, do you think I did not change?
Okay, so I understand. I get where Papi's coming from.
Okay.
He's saying that okay, it's not like you completely changed. Like you just evolved from one level of maturity to the next level of maturity.
Okay.
All years.
But for an external bystander, wouldn't that look like a change?
It may look like a change, but
sorry. Let me give you an example. Let me give you an example with someone we all know. Papi, you know this person very well. Imagine, for instance, that when you got married, your spouse was thought to be a shy person. She would never take a public speaking role, for instance. But then she attends some programs, joins some clubs, and becomes a sharp public speaker. Are you telling me that person didn't change?
Okay, it was always inside.
No, the person was shy. The person didn't like speaking. It was, oh no, I'm shy. I don't like this. But maybe because of a work challenge, they found out that they needed to learn how to speak publicly. Is that not a change?
Papi.
Well, I would say, because if it's a work challenge, like interestingly, we're talking about this. I was talking about this last night with someone about someone who had where the responsibility to speak comes up.
Yeah.
The person will still struggle. He would only speak at the time T, but beyond that, he wouldn't speak again. But for someone who now takes it up and now does it, it's already a natural.
Yeah, you was
you just never saw that part. Yeah.
It was in you. Something just had to bring it up.
It did blood.
You know?
Okay, so let me use the example I talked about with you guys earlier. The one where I said that my spouse came off as an extrovert when I knew him, but in marriage he turned out to be quite the opposite. He's an introvert. Is that not a change?
No.
So which part of him was the real part of him? Which part was the true part?
He was never an extrovert.
He was always an introvert. He just needed to woo you.
Interestingly, I've always known him.
To woo you.
So you mean all the time when he was braiding his hair and rapping, he was an introvert? How? How does an introvert do stuff like that?
Braiding your hair and rapping is a trade, is a craft. You just have to do it for the job. Just like the same thing you talked about, public speaking.
Yeah.
So it doesn't change it. This is what I'm supposed to project. So I'll do that. That doesn't make me an extrovert. So I think you read it wrong. The fact that because it came with it's something and it was part of a group. Yeah. And it was expected that this is what they needed to do
in this place.
so yeah, it came with the territory.
Okay, so it seems that Ima and Papi are standing on the foundation that people don't change, they evolve. So women that, let me not use women, spouses that marry each other and then, you know, there's a quarrel and they're saying he changed, he didn't used to do this, he didn't used to do that, they did that. What
Just
happened in that
evolved.
scenario?
He just evolved.
Or he showed his true self.
He probably
I see your
his
true
He
colours.
probably is reacting based on what he has been getting over time.
Okay.
And so he's trying to put up a defense.
Okay.
Okay, for instance, I did have a friend that was always, would I say obedient? Let me not sound like a dominant. Yeah, no, not timid. Was always very, very obedient and always yes, everything, not
Okay.
looking for trouble.
Okay.
But when we spent time when we spent a lot of time together, and he felt I was trying to boss him around.
Okay.
He started opposing my regime.
So rulership.
Yes,
Okay.
opposing my rulership.
Okay.
Not because he would want to oppose
Okay.
naturally, but because he just wanted to put it out there that you can't boss me around.
Okay.
So yeah, in some marriages, I think
That might happen.
that's
That
what
might happen.
happens.
Okay.
It's not like the person really just wants to be that.
Okay. They
But
just feel like you're
yeah,
taking advantage
they
of
take
the way
advantage of
they
the
are.
fact,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
So they're
okay.
trying to,
Okay.
you know, there's something they call that thing. It's a reverse psychology. Is it?
Probably.
Yeah, they just
I do
turn
not
it
know the
around so
terminology.
you feel they want
So you
to
back
understand
down.
that, yeah, these other parts
Exist. Don't try
so
me.
don't try me.
Okay, I get what
Yeah,
you
so
mean.
that happens.
So the final thing I wish I knew before I got married, and this might sound a little controversial, is that I probably wish that I didn't get married as early as I did. Oh, blasphemy. Okay, why am I saying that? Okay, I think that when you're younger, obviously there's still a lot of maturity, discovery, and growth going on. And if you do not get married to an understanding partner, that process can come off as irritating, confusing, frustrating for the other partner. I mean, you may not understand how it comes up because, oh, I'm finding myself, I want to live my best life, all those rubbish, you know, all that rubbish. But the truth of the matter is the partner married this kind of person. For instance, I'm a lawyer by training, so I used to work a 9 to 5. Papi says I was tame. He said I was tame. Was that the word you used?
Tame, yeah. This tame lawyer.
I didn't know I was tame. I thought I was
Wild.
living my living my best life, but that's besides the point. But yeah, so you know, because I mean, I was in law school and I was getting henna tattoos on my anklet, and that didn't feel very tame to me. Now I wish it was permanent. Yeah, let me tell you now that was in my mind to do. But let's continue. So imagine somebody marries, says, oh, I just want to marry a quiet, 9 to 5 wife who is just going to go to work and come back, and this is the woman I found. And then 2 years into marriage, she says, no, I want to be a writer, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to
travel the world.
I want to travel. I mean, I have film festivals where I wake up the week before and say, you know what, I'm going to Lagos and I'm going to spend a week in Lagos the next week, and so on and so forth. How many people can tolerate that kind of growth in quotes? Because for some people it won't be growth. It will be you're confused, you're being influenced, you don't know what you want, you don't know what you're. Yes, it can be any number of things. So for me, if I could take a step back, I would say I would wish that women married a little. I'm not saying marry in your 30s. I'm just saying. No, I'm not saying wait till like in your late 30s or your late 40s to get married, but I'm saying that give yourself time to mature a little. Give yourself time to gain some sort of financial independence. Marrying straight out of school can sound like fun when you're in school, but did you really get the time to explore? Be a little adventurous. This world is huge.
Is that why you didn't get married on time to explore?
What do you mean? What do you mean by explore? Explore your career,
Yourself.
explore your options.
Okay.
There are many things I want to do right now, and I have to think about the fact that I have a family first. There are considerations I have to make because I have kids and I have a husband that a single person doesn't have to make. So when I say explore, I mean across a wild gamut of things, So that's what I think. Marriage requires a lot of maturity. I used to be a hysterical young girl getting married, and I know for certain that if I didn't marry and the understanding person that I did would have looked at me one day and say, you know what, come and be going. It have to.
So let's give it up for.
Yeah, give it up for the spouse of Jennifer Kim and I.
Spouse of Jennifer for keeping up
You know, so me myself, I know. So I was telling Emma earlier that I've grown a lot, that I don't talk as much as I used to. And she says, how? You still talk a lot. I say, back then when I was angry, I would be hysterical, you know. I wouldn't be able to control my emotions. But of course, maturity does that for you. You learn how to control the words that you speak. You learn to choose your battles. It's not everything that requires plenty talk. Abi Papi, am I right?
Right.
You're right,
Papi
you know.
doesn't even have any battles.
Papi, who told you doesn't look
He
at this?
does not even fight anything.
So finally, I want to say something controversial. Papi, you don't want to say anything about sex in this discussion. There's nothing that people should know about sex. People that aren't sexually active should know about sex when they get married.
There are many books to be read.
There are many books to be read. Learn about sex before you get married. Sex is important in marriage.
Ask questions.
Sex can get boring in marriage if you do not educate yourselves. And marriage is like eternal life. I always tell people marriage is like eternal life. You know, they finish. You are literally with the same person, God willing, because that's the plan. You want to be with the same person, doing the same things for decades. Now, people, the depth of boredom. If you are not educated, sex is important. Get educated about it. Invest in educating yourself about sex the same way you invest in educating yourself about how to manage finances, how to rear children, everything else, you know. So nobody will tell you that. Your premarital counselor might not tell you that. But also, finally, you probably need a lubricant for your wedding night.
Wait, sorry,
Yeah,
let me just don't talk about it.
So
That's why it keeps getting worse.
Worse.
Or it just stays
Worse
the way it
and
is.
worse.
Worse. So they just
Worse.
keep being quiet. You do not like this, but you endure it, and then
imagine enjoying it for exactly. Come on. And then you think about all the people that are having glorious sex, and you're like, really? I can do better.
They don't even believe.
See this sunlight in our eyes. Yeah.
Glorious.
yeah, especially women, you know. I just wanted to tell you guys that it's been real as always having this conversation with you. Don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, and share. Thank you, Emma, for coming on this show. We are deep in the heart of some village somewhere, so this has been a very bumpy ride.
Yep.
Pardon me, excuse me, and forgive me. And
We're signing out.
Happy we're signing out. One last word from the man in the front seat. Let me show you his side view. Where is the side? The side view I've used to show. Okay, something, I'm sure you saw something. Okay. So that's from all of us on this episode of CAR-Versations. Bye.